evening. So I'm here tonight to bring you, I guess, my second video in the report series, which is 5 steps to save the world. And I know that seems really stretchy and a big statement to make, but information can be very powerful, and you're just going to have to wait and see what I have to say. So I know I touched briefly before on the separation in between the family court system and the criminal court system in some of these domestic situations. But what basically happens is there's a huge chunk of abuse that falls between those cracks and gets, I think, a little bit lost. And unfortunately, what happens in the worst circumstances is that one person gets to escape a really, really, really toxic place, but has to leave their kids behind. Right? Impossible choices for people to make. This is in part facilitated by the family court system basically not determining where the aggressive party is. And it's honestly not equipped to do so. So the family court system is sort of set up in most circumstances to just push the two parties into their opposite corners and pray that it doesn't happen again. And unfortunately, I think in a lot of circumstances it does. And in part, I get it, right? It would be really difficult. I think it would have been. Yay. It would have been very difficult to find out who the aggressive party is. Right? And I think everybody around the table knows that in most circumstances, it's just two people finger pointing and nobody knows who's actually right and wrong. For a court system to step in and do that, they would have to ensure that they're accurate. I think in most circumstances, what happens at the end of these cases is it's one party who's been tortured, looks frazzled, and probably has no memory, and another party that's an extreme manipulator. And I don't even want to try and guess how many times in our history the wrong party has gotten the kids. We'll talk about retroactive data calculation later. Anyways, after having exposure to the system for like 15 seconds, I got on my nope train, and now I'm like, nope, nope, nope. that's gonna be a hard no there. Now, before I get into how we're going to identify aggressors, let me just clarify. I'm not going to suggest a system where we pick up all these people and basically throw them in jail. We have to find a better way of dealing with these problems. And at the end of the day, these people have neurological issues. They have rage issues. They need to be conditioned to deal with these problems. We cannot just put our fingers in our ears and put them back out in society and we're just like, hope for the best. Hope for the best. Yeah, it didn't go well. So what we need is a way to determine who the aggressive party is. What we need is a way to measure abuse in like manipulating land of truth doesn't live here. Anyways, I have a solution. Are you ready? Data. Yeah, data. I know. Woo. Like the harassment line that I mentioned in my last video, when you set a line for different components of emotional abuse, like threats, like say, once you send 7 threats to one, somebody gets additional protection, which seems like a logical, rational thing. It also will control behavior, because then everybody that is manipulating will just send 6.5. But again, that's better than 25. But that's not even the truly magical part. The truly magical part, like if you have been with a person that is a level of toxic, you understand that there is a pathway in between their brain and their mouth, and there is no stop in the pathway. It's like a tunnel. It's like a tunnel for vomit to come out of. By basically telling people that they have to count what they say, like I'm going to have to count threats, you are forcing them to examine what they say. It's basically like a forced consciousness upgrade for a mass of people. Now, you know that I've been around the table with a whole bunch of manipulating people now. And I know that controlling people like controlling positions. I know just how many controlling, toxic folks that we have at the top of the house right now. And honestly, I don't trust a lot of people. So basically, we're just going to go around them. Yeah, we're just going to go around them and manipulate the system in the right way. Because you can do that. And here we go, 5 steps to save the world. So this 5-step plan will work in any system that has stare decease or precedent setting. So I did a quick Google and this is what I got. I am in Canada. I'm Canadian, so thankfully we're on the list. Japan, unfortunately, is not, but hopefully if we can get enough movement, it'll just impact Japan anyway. I want to make sure that everybody is aware around the table, anybody can do this. You do not need permission. You do not need to go up to a judge. You do not need to ask the courthouse whether this is a good idea. I would almost suggest that you don't. Just do it. Get up like 3 or 4 domestic abuse cases together, go through a law firm or a law society or whatever, 3 or 4 cases. Just make sure that the metric is consistent. If the metric is consistent, we can measure it across the board later. And I'll tell you why that's valuable. Okay, you ready? It's like the simplest thing. The fact that this hasn't been done thus far just is pretty flabbergasting. But let me scream it out loud so that we can implement it really quickly. Step 1, pick a metric, any metric. I'm going to give you a report where you have a whole bunch of them, and I'm going to give you a comprehensive framework by which to measure emotional abuse, and honestly, it's perfect. But to implement this, you actually don't need to use my metrics. You can use different metrics. You can pick, insults. You can do something completely different. It will only work, though, if you're consistent across the board in whatever judicial system you're trying to implement this into. Step 2, put the metric, a consistent metric, in your court documents, so they become official court record after you get a judgment, which is step 3. Step 3, go get a judgment. You're done. That's it. You just helped. Good job. Now, once you have the same metric in court documents, you can start to look at data in math and get a trend line. Also, any lawyer from here to Timbuktu will now be able to utilize that data going forward. For example, judge blah, 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 demeaning metrics in the last case was 23-1, and this case is 48-1. Why aren't you giving this person their children? They've obviously been tortured. Like something like that. Anyways, the magic really comes when you start to get a trend line. Like, you won't even need to pull out a number. The number is going to show itself. And usually when you benchmark and you make rules, which is basically what you're doing here, you'll get a range by which, things are really bad and you just hit the top of the range. But, if you're thinking like it's going to be difficult to find out what this number is, no, as soon as you get 10 to 20 cases and you start to look at it on a chart, it will show a trend line. And do you know why this is especially valuable? The trend line is where you get to identify outliers. This one's going to be good, especially here. Once you get a trend line, you get to identify all of those weird cases, right? Like one of those weird cases when that abused person lost their kids and it was like a tragedy. Well, those cases are going to stick out like a sore thumb. And that's where the trend line ends up acting as oversight. Because if there's certain characters around the table that seem to be part and parcel, get their fingers in these cases wherein people get their children torn away from them. Really interesting information now, isn't it? Anyways, 5 steps. Like, it's not even hard. So honestly, just do it. Don't ask permission. Just do it.